when we see it in shallower depths as divers, we try to remove it, or if it's too heavy for us to remove, we note the location of it, and then we have groups that come in and remove it. But we are very deep right now. Right now we are at 212 meters down on the footprint reef complex, and so we just have to do our due diligence to make sure that we do not become entangled in this marine debris.
That looks good.
Yep. Yeah, nothing floating
Yeah,
above it.
I think this is the end of it right here.
And we're passing to the south of it right now.
Yeah.
Look at how strong the current is. I'm just seeing all of the particulate matter drift by.
Okay, you want to zoom out now?
Lovely squid swarm.
Yeah, these
Argus.
I think we're clear of it
can
there.
also entangle whales
so
too. We have a whale entanglement problem on the west coast.
Heading? 112.
I mean, go. Yeah, just
sure
head.
do.
You can go east from here.
Yeah. Roger.
And those lines are probably old. You know, they've been there for a while, and they just do not disintegrate or, you know, become a part of the marine environment. They persist for years.
Yeah, the line last night was pretty strong stuff. It was, you know, it took.
Yeah.
It looked pretty intact, really.
Yeah, the only reason we're able to surmise that it's older is because of all the growth on it, not necessarily because the line itself is breaking down at all. So.
Yes.
Yeah, the line last night,
there were... go down the slope to... Right?
Yeah, it's a little down slope. But we're headed due east now.
Okay.
Yeah, the line last night had anemones that were 2 or 3 inches wide, had some glass sponges actually encrusting that were also about 4 or 5 inches wide. So definitely some older life on it.
It made a heck of a mess on the deck, too.
Sure did.
I can only imagine.
There's a really beautiful squid swarm happening in Argus right now.
We must have hosed 1,000 starfish off the deck.
Brittle stars. Not happy to be there.
Oh, no.
Oh, look at all the LIGO opalescens following us right now.
The nice
Plus the market. Yeah, the market squid. If you switch to your Argus camera view, or if you're on the quad, you'll see it. That's the common market squid, the LIGO opalescens, and they are naturally attracted to, well, they are attracted to the moon, the natural light, but they're also attracted to artificial light. And they are an important commercial species here in the Chalons National Marine Sanctuary. It's one of the top fisheries here.
Yeah,
and many of our pinnipeds and whale species and pelagic fish rely on squid for their diet.
Yeah,
I actually like the view from Argus right now. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lindsay.
Oh, I was just saying we've seen squid on pretty much most of our dives in the Channel Islands so far. They've been pretty consistent.
They have.
Some of these yellow sea fans we're coming across are pretty abundant species, particularly on top of this feature on the ridgeline that we're going to be making our way to eventually. The golden sea fan, Acanthogorgia. And we also have a lot of these coral polyps and anemones that like the underhang or the overhang of this, the underside of it, on these cliff faces. They look like little flowers just kind of growing on the lip of these walls. Wow, this is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely a lot of life on this ledge here.
Well, it kind of makes sense, right? Because, I mean, the deep sea coral communities, they rely on currents to bring them their nutrients, their food. And so, I mean, this is definitely a current. We're in a current right now as we drift along, looking at this, the
Wow,
rock
that's
features and the
so
life
cool.
encrusting it.
Look at that. That is a high density of what different species of cup coral, like Desmophyllum dianthus, which is the
Want to zoom in
coxcomb
now?
coral. And of course, there's probably a ton of anemones in there too. They look quite similar. We've got some sponges, a lot of anemones, and a rockfish trying to sleep there on the right. Excuse us.
You don't see me, but we do.
That might
We
be some
do.
Lophelia on the end, or is that
Yeah,
a
that
branching sponge?
very little there. Can you zoom
Oh,
in some
great.
more, Al?
And that actually looks alive.
Yep,
Mm-hmm.
there it
Looks
is.
pretty healthy.
Little tiny
Maybe half a
cluster.
dozen polyps.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nice.
Maybe
And
a
then
few
you can
more.
see immediately to the left is that Desmophyllum coxcomb coral.
So these deep sea rockfish are like, um, they're different because of the distinguishing characteristics. Like this one has a different pattern of white splotches on it. And that would make it different from some of the other rockfish we've seen, like rosy rockfish, or there's a variety. And so if we had our fish experts following right now, they'd probably give us a shout out to what we're seeing. But for me, I'm going to use my fish ID book to try to figure out what we're seeing. But I see three prominent white dots along the dorsal ridge of this rockfish species.
Okay.
Yeah, and there are a lot of similar looking rockfish species that are orange with white dots, so it's not immediately obvious what species we are looking at sometimes.
Yes.
It's kind of amazing. There's not much Lophelia rubble underneath us. Seems to be mostly on the cliffside. Normally our first indication if we're traveling upslope, before we see Lophelia, we see Lophelia's rubble that's been underneath it. And I'm guessing it's going to be potentially on one of the highlights from this cruise, but we saw some Lophelia rubble and we followed it upstream where the river of rubble just got bigger and bigger and bigger until we reached the crest of this big boulder on top of this big rocky outcrop. And there was a very dense cluster of Lophelia, which was really cool, but it was just a river of rubble below it. It was absolutely everywhere. So that was a much smaller colony with not much rubble. And normally corals like Lophelia are reef building corals. So they lay down new layers of skeleton and they grow on the kind of the outer surface and they create these hard rocky substrates and structures for other corals and sponges that could settle on the dead parts of those reefs. But with the amount of upwelling we get in this area and our general propensity to have more acidic waters and lower oxygen in the oxygen minimum zone, our environment is just much more variable and a bit more acidic than, say, the Gulf of Mexico. And so the Lophelia you find here often have a lot of rubble or create a lot of rubble versus creating strong structures they continue to grow on top of. So the reefs out here in terms of reef building corals look a lot different than other parts of the United States in the deep sea. And we actually
So I was
have
looking
two
up different species of rockfish, and the color pattern is one thing, but it has to also do with gill rakers and other sort of really detailed analysis. And so it's hard to identify some of these rockfish on the fly unless you totally know what you're looking at with rockfish.
Yeah, or have them in your hand. Erica Frew with the Northwest Fisheries Science Center was saying sometimes she can't even really tell unless she's got the fish in her hand, so she can count things like gill rakers, for example.
Right, right. So I'm not even going to put a guess out there as to what I think it might be because I will be probably wrong.
Same here. That's quite all right.
Yeah, and we know it's a rockfish. And this and that brings up the point that these rock features and this deep sea, seeing the different sponges and deep sea coral communities on this living on this ridge, it's really important, essential habitat for many different rockfish species, and so
I think
that
that's
is
a
one of the
cowcod
reasons
at the
we're
top.
looking at it. Yeah, that does look like a cowcod.
They're pretty distinct. They've got like this whitish pink color to them, and they've got really long spines on their dorsal fin and kind of like a pointy face. There you go. Beautiful.
That's a nice shot of it.
And there's a black coral to the left, upper left, and immediately to the left. He's got a big mouth.
And so I think,
bet he eats lots of stuff.
That's right. It's an opportunistic lying weight predator. It's going to slurp things in. But it's important to note here for those of you that are watching that rockfish are a long-lived species, and so this no-take marine reserve protection at Footprint Reef is important for rockfish because they tend to be reproductive through a very long lifespan. In fact, they're even more reproductive the older that they get and produce more eggs. So that is one of the, oh really? Let's find that. But that's one of the reasons that we want to, that this habitat has been set aside to protect different rockfish species like the cowcod.
Probably the one that got away with it.
Did it get away?
There's always one.
In the rocks? I don't know.
Oh, Abby has some.
He was cruising along down here.
Go ahead.
Oh, some cool information on an AUV, or Autonomous Underwater Vehicle Survey of Footprint Reef from 2011. And she's telling us that the most common rockfishes that were spotted were categorized as unidentified sebastomas, which are the red guys with the white dots, Julie.
Okay.
So yeah, unidentified, this group of organisms or these groups of rockfish that are orangey red with white spots. Half-banded rockfish, short belly rockfish, square spot rockfish, and bank rockfish. And
so
then
there you
like
go.
this
That's
cowcod.
why I'm not even going to attempt to distinguish it because I don't know.
Yeah, and then other species that were spotted that were commercially important but at lower densities, so not as common as those species I just mentioned, would be the cowcod, like we just saw, that larger fish with the large dorsal spines, boccaccio, and lingcod. So there's commercial fisheries for all those species. Thanks, Abby. That's really cool. And this is one of the reasons why we like to do these surveys again at a later time span to see how these densities might have changed. It's not exactly the same type of data collection because we're using an ROV versus an AUV, which the AUV has kind of like a pre-programmed track line in it that they upload before they launch it over the side and let it go. It's not tethered to the ship. But we are here with a live feed from the ROVs, and we're picking and choosing where we're going. But we are taking transects on occasion, which is where we keep a fixed bearing, speed and height above the seafloor, so we can do some non-biased counts of things that we encounter across various habitat types. So it can still tell us something, even though it's not exactly the same type of data collection.
Here, let's see what I'm noticing right now too, thinking about the way the current's flowing, and is looking at the orientation of the sea fans and the sponges. I mean, to be able to maximize their ability to filter feed in this particular rocky reef configuration.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, they like to be perpendicular to the current to intersect the largest volume of water that they can to maximize how much food particles they might encounter. And I've seen photos of places that are much deeper that have stalked sponges. So there's these really interesting kind of weird looking sponges on these little stalks, these little spindly sticks, and then they have some kind of like fan-like or globular shape at the top, but they're all pointed
Kelp?
in the same direction,
I think it's
Can you zoom in out?
which looks
There's
really
some of
odd.
those messy sponges again. I mean, dirty sponges, not messy. Darn it.
That's weird.
Yeah, macroresistance.
Kelp? Is it kelp?
Yeah, it's giant
Yeah.
kelp. It's got all the rivulets that you can see on the blade there.
Oh yeah, there's some drift kelp there.
Oh, good eye. I didn't even see that until you zoomed in.
I thought it was line.
Oh, look at the worm at the bottom. Oh, it just went out of screen.
Yeah, it was funky.
There was some sort of a polychaete at the bottom. Maybe it'll swim back in. Look at, so here's some of these oblong barrel sponges.
Oh yeah.
Dirty on the outside.
We just happened to complete a ship move, so if you do want to check around this ledge a little more, it's easy to do so.
Yeah. However the pilots want to proceed, we can explore the slip a little
we're all
more
set
before
up
moving
right here
on.
if you want to look around.
Yeah, I think there was some Lophelia just
How far have we
above
gone
where we're
since
looking.
since our line encounter?
We are 80 meters off,
Okay.
almost 90.
So, yeah. So we could probably head back up soon, I guess. Maybe.
Yeah, it depends. I mean, this is a great ledge too, if that's the goal.
Oh, did you just do transect here? We've kind of been doing it, but it's hard to, I don't know.
Yeah, science.
I gotta go in and out a bit.
Do you want to poke around here at all? Or attempt to do another transect?
We can keep going and see if we find some more habitat that might be more amenable to a transect. I wouldn't want the RV to run into anything, especially if we're having a crab walk along a wall.
Yeah.
Bridge, nav? Two 0 meters, bearing 090.
Another yellow sea fan, Acanthogorgia, and we're seeing some small black corals just above the lasers, now passing. Right above that rockfish. Normally you can tell black corals are in frame of view, normally because you can see the squat lobsters first, before the black coral actually comes into focus. Some really neat ledges, very complex.
They're beautiful.
Habitat.
If it were shallower, I would be looking underneath for abalone and lobster and other invertebrates.
It is very
maybe even some
reminiscent
fish.
of something you would see on a dive, a scuba dive. So peaceful.
It is. There's not any COVID down here or anything like what we're experiencing on the surface. It's just life in the deep sea right now. I find it very soothing.
Yeah.
Except for the occasional fishing line interlude.
Well, that was a little stressful. I agree. That did put a little bit of stress into the situation.
But then we did have a nice, you know, detox with the squid and Argus cam, bring us back to a peaceful state. I don't know if Bob's completely peaceful again, but we'll get there.
Yeah, and we kind of discussed a little bit on the pre-dive call that the top of this feature is going to be the area that we will most likely encounter line, and we're at about that depth. We are less than 200 meters here at some point, and the very tip of this feature is less than 100 meters, and so we're probably going to try a way to stay away from that portion and try to stay as deep as we can, but still accessing at least the southern part of the top of this ridge, just to try and play it safe. But this is not entirely surprising that we've already encountered a line, and why we haven't deeper. It's mostly going to be concentrated in this area. And I think we're seeing, thanks to Abby's clue as to what the most common species of rockfish were in 2011, I think this one just left of the lasers is a half-banded rockfish. First, now he's a little bit washed out, so I can't tell. But I did see one earlier, I'm pretty sure.
So, what do you guys think? How's the current right? I mean, are we still drifting with the current?
I'm sort of driving now. It's not nearly as much as it was.
Okay, that's good.
You have heading control now, right? Yeah. So, yeah, it's definitely not as bad as it was.
Yeah, Bob just took his hands off the controllers
good or bad.
We weren't going anywhere. Look, Ma, no hands. So yeah, right now no one's driving, and we're actually holding.
That's good. Well, I was going to talk a little bit about fish design, because one of the things that always impresses me when we're diving and we get into current situations is the fish. Yeah, there's none now. So their fish are calm and not having to really exert extra energy to move either. But we've been in some pretty gnarly current, off of Santa Barbara Island and in this location, and I'm always impressed by the fish, the way they're able to move against the current and with the current. They're so well designed in this environment, whereas when we don our scuba gear and go down and dive, current is a really big issue, and you plan your dives to try to not spend the whole time swimming up current, but try to get some down current to conserve energy. But I'm always impressed by how the design of the organisms in the ocean and how they work against current.
Yeah, that's a good observation, Julie. Same with marine mammals, particularly sea lions, because when we're diving and usually around our safety stop, they're just swirling and doing these beautiful acrobatic movements around you and blowing bubbles at you and those types of things. And nothing makes me feel more clunky and out of my element than encountering a sea lion on a dive. Can't move nearly as fast or be as nimble as them in a million years. So.
Yes.
Is that a frilly sponge that's in the center screen, just left of the lasers? Can you maybe do a quick zoom on that?
Zoom in now. Oh, that's a piece of pipe there. That's man-made there. Right?
Oh, yeah.
It's an elbow joint.
Looks like it.
Oh, that is very frilly. Maybe that could be a Ferrea sponge, but maybe a slightly different morphology than I'm used to seeing. Slightly more delicate, the folds are a little smaller. Yeah, Erica Burton in the science chat is also asking Ferrea. And Abby is confirming for Rhea. It's got brittle stars wrapped in it. Lots of little crevices to live in and some shrimp. Wonderful, thank you.
All right, zoom out.
Oh, nice siphonophore and Argus cam. Holy cow.
Oh, cool.
Oh, just a piece.
So a siphonophore is like a... Oh, I think the squid are eating. Is that what they're doing? They're like sending out their little tentacles?
Yeah, it looks like
That
it.
was cool.
Yeah, there, you can see little mysodes in the water too. They're going after.
Yeah, that's really neat. It's so funny that they swim legs first, to me.
That next to the left laser,
Like
just a rock?
You looking?
Well, they're looking, and just watching their motion, they go back and forth
a
so
rock?
easily. You know,
Guess so.
that's how always now I'm seeing squid instead of fish.
Never mind.
With lasers?
No, I just, it looked like almost like an octopus, but it was a rock.
Oh.
Yeah, but the siphonophore, which just floated by in the Argus cam, is a colonial invertebrate, and they're kind of chained together, and they float through the water column, filter feeding, and they can get quite long. And some siphonophores have particular units or individuals that have a specific job. So some of them have like flagella or little tentacles that they can use to swim, or they can kind of pulse and use like jet propulsion to move around. And then there are some that have stinging tentacles that are good for catching things to eat as they pass through the water column. And some are made mostly for reproductive purposes, so they store all the gonads of the organism. It just depends on that particular species. So the one we saw did not have specialized individuals. It was just a chain of individuals. But sometimes you'll see others with slightly different body plans where each individual has like a specialized job, which is fascinating because they're all linked by almost like a gut system. And so if you have the feeding polyps that are doing the job of filter feeding, they're all getting nourishment. The pelagic zone is a very interesting place, especially the deeper midwater.
So how far are we gone?
From the fishing line?
Yeah.
We have gone
Like 120?
130.
130.
Nice guess.
So we could probably, or
Just stop yourself.
yeah, I don't know. Well, if we're a water depth away, then we're probably okay, right?
Yeah, I guess the question for science is, you know, we're along this slope. Is crabbing along a slope for a transect something you're interested in, or do you prefer when we're able to go kind of head on?
Oh no, I don't think we mind at all when you crab along. I feel like some pilots are comfortable with that and some aren't, and I don't think it makes a difference.
It's the speed, I think, is more of the big deal, you know?
Yeah.
Well, if we're not in that much current right now, then our speed could be are we in a sweet spot for the transect, or are we what's the speed right now?
Well, we were talking about getting far enough away from the line to be able to move back up slope to where you're, where we were working.
Mm-hmm.
We're quite a ways down slope, so.
And yeah, that's fine with us. I have no problem.
Yeah, is this contour line an area that would be okay to do a transect from here to Z2?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, we're getting an okay.
Alrighty then.
We've got 6 meters for the ship move to end, so we'll do that and let you get set up, pilots.
I mean, it's kind of what we've been doing, other than making heading changes because of the wall going in and out. So, is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I think that we have to adapt. I mean, that's fine, I think.
Yeah. So,
again,
so we're just talking about doing more of what we've been doing. It's such
interesting rock relief. Yeah, right? This is such an interesting, I mean, right in here is really interesting to look at. Not that I'm trying to introduce bias to our transect, but I like it.
So science will overshoot Z2, which I'm guessing is okay since we're going to head that way to get to Z3 anyway.
Right on the nose.
Perfect.
Right now, Argus is out in front of Herc with how we're moving, right? Would you rather have it the other way? Like, would you want to zip out?
Yeah, I should get out in front.
Roger.
Let me do that.
Ship's holding, so get settled.
I feel like there's a ton of these sea fans, and we'll every now and then get a small black coral, but not many other species other than the cup corals we've been seeing and Lophelia. Occasional Clavularia, which is a soft coral. Coming around this
again,
big
the rock features here, the way the reef looks is really interesting.
090.
Yeah, it's very angular.
Mm-hmm.
I think, so Jamie Conrad was in
front now.
Ready to go?
The science chat earlier and was saying that this area kind of runs along a fault line, and so she was curious if all the rubble that we were seeing earlier in the dive was due to shifts in the tectonic plates, and it was just broken up by that movement. So it was very, and this almost looks like this part was, rising or something, like these big chunks.
Or line.
No. Oh no.
Oh shoot.
Hold position.
Okay, look at that. Let's see. Is it extending beyond that entanglement there? I see like a piece coming off the edge.
Hard to tell. I could go up and it's just being hidden by the rock.
Can we zoom in on Argus cam?
Drop a target, F.
Yep. Thanks, Steve.
I see a fragment up there on the top of the reef, on the point there, and then.
Can we zoom in now? Yeah, that's that same blue-green polypearl like last night.
From last night, yeah.
Darn. Okay, let's see. It looks like, is it just wrapped on this and broken off? I can't tell if it's extending beyond this rock feature or not.
So that looks like an end right there, right?
Right to the bottom, right. And then I can't tell if it's been sheared off on the rock.
Yeah, so
on that.
This is the end of this piece. Then.
Kind of looks like it looped around.
Yeah, it's just local right here.
Maybe we're not meant to start a transect here. But very cool view in Argus.
Any more transects. I feel like every time we try to do a transect, a line shows up. It's like, it's not one of those transects. We don't need any lines.
See how so it kind of comes up around and then it seems to terminate on the left of that sponge. Is that another? Okay, let's see.
It looks like
wow,
there's another
it's really tangled on this point. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this piece is local to just right there, but I hope.
I hope so too. I don't see it. I don't see it extending off into the deep anywhere.
No.
Or up into, yeah, it seems localized right here on this point, this rock point.
That's a cool point.
Mm-hmm.
There's a line that looks like it's horizontal on the right side of frame, right of the rock.
Nope.
Yeah.
Oh, yep. Oh, I think I see it too.
Good eye, Al.
Yeah.
Right there.
Peaso, Peaso. Okay, goodbye.
Shoot.
Not today, line, not today.
Okay, so we need to move further south.
Yep. Let's just go pure south. Bridge, nav?
Just 10 meters.
Let's come wide on Argus.
We got to keep this in view again, right?
Yeah,
Roger,
let's keep our eyes on it.
10 meters,
See if we
bearing
notice
180.
any downward angles that would go behind Herc or Argus here. Darn.
Got a sponge growing on it. This is an older line as well. Lots of stuff.
Sponge and coral, it looks like.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, this is again evidence that Footprint Reef, prior to its establishment as a no-take marine reserve, was heavily fished and a very important fishing site because of the habitat type that we're seeing as we're looking right now during our dive, but for rockfish congregations and other species. And we're seeing sort of the remnants of the fishing activity with some of this line that's been left here. It's marine debris. It's not new. I mean, look at all the growth that's totally encrusting the line as we drift alongside it, move slowly and carefully. We want to make sure we don't get the vehicles entangled in this line at all, because it's very damaging and detrimental to the ROVs.
Yeah, we've got
so we have to
8 meters left on
proceed
that
very carefully here. But this is old fishing line from some sort of a trap.
You want to start moving east at the same time, or complete the ship move south?
You can complete the move.
Roger.
I'll quit going this way.
And Lizzie, I would say this is probably our most common marine debris problem in the Channel Islands National Marine Sanctuary.
I would agree, definitely, based on the scale of, like, typically if you're going to lose a line, like a fishing pot because of a storm or high wind, current, wave situation, it's a lot like this. We don't know how long this line goes, but it's probably at least 100 meters, or it was before it was severed. So, I mean, we might get a lot of cans and bottles, but in terms of potential damage to the habitat and wildlife, like lost fishing gear is probably, the worst.
It's the number one, yeah.
In size and, damage. But we work with the local fishermen here, and the Channel Islands National Marine Sanctuary put out a video on the best practices of how to rig your lobster pots and traps that have fishermen that actually fish in the Channel Islands National Marine Sanctuary, more senior fishermen and fisherwomen in there that talk about everything they've learned about watching for storms coming in, how to rig their gear, and how to, just make sure that they're doing the best they can, because it's expensive for the fishermen too. You don't want to lose your rigs and your line. That costs a lot of money. So. And
for the resource, we don't want to continue ghost fishing and taking, unnecessarily damaging or harming the marine life in the sanctuary.
Right. And there have been new regulations that have been put into place, including if a gear, like a pot, for example, is lost, they have to have links or some kind of fail-safe that will eventually deteriorate and let the trap open, so anything that was inside of it can get out, but any regular fishing duration soak times would not cause that material to dissolve in the ocean water. But if it's left out for several months, it would eventually fail and the cage would open. And they also started limiting the number of traps fishermen can use in a season. So before it was unlimited. So if you lost pots and traps, you could just buy more or make more
back there too.
and put them out.
Yeah.
But now, oh, there's a can back there too, shining to the left, just above the line. But now fishermen get, it's like buoy tags essentially that they attach to their gear, and they only get so many. So there's extra incentive now, given their limited number of pots that they can put out a year, to make sure that they're well taken care of and not lost to storms. Because you can't buy any more. And it's a tag that you put on your buoys. So if there's any buoys out fishing in an area that do not have this tag, you can get in big trouble. So just extra incentives.
Yeah, I think it's really important. I mean, we certainly, want to make sure that fishermen are held accountable for what they put into the sanctuary and are accountable for removing it so that we don't have situations like this. And sometimes you can't avoid it, but lost fishing gear is a serious issue because it continues to ghost fish if there's still a trap associated with this. We don't know from this particular line. We don't know where it ends. But we do know, and some of our scuba diving surveys, we do see ghost traps, lobster traps, crab traps that have either the buoys have been sheared off in a storm or removed in some way, but the traps keep on fishing even though the fishery is closed. And so I've come across traps that are loaded with, a dozen lobster and a couple of sheep crab, and we go through and we systematically cut open that trap and let those animals out. But that's us coming across it. So it is an issue that we're working with the fishermen to try to address.
Yeah, and I would say, along with the state and our relationship with some of our fishermen stakeholders, we're moving in the right direction.
I think so too.
There's also a like whale entanglement task force here on the West Coast, because some of these lines can get easily caught on the pectoral fins or wrapped around a whale. And so minimizing the amount of line in the water to make sure that there's just not much drag or not much extra loose line that they could get caught in, especially as the environmental conditions change. They've noticed that whales are feeding closer to shore than they have been previously, and they've been seeing a lot more incidences of whale entanglement. That was a siphonophore that just swam across our screen.
That was beautiful. Yeah, that was pretty amazing.
Another Acantha Gorgeous Sea Fan. Probably one of the biggest we've seen so far.
And turn the lasers off.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
They're not helping me out at all.
I know, I keep thinking some of the debris that floats by the lasers is just line going off into the water column. It's hard to tell if it's the lasers or line.
Is that line going up?
Yeah, it does.
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out here. It makes a jog right here, but I think it's still on the bottom.
Okay.
Yeah, the rock might go up.
No, it keeps going. It just goes around that rock.
Yeah, we can't. I keep switching between the Herc view and the Argus view, but it's hard to see from the Argus view at all. It's too far away.
Yeah.
So we are at 222 meters down, and we are encountering some lost fishing gear. This is some sort of a trap line. It's thick. It's probably at least, what you guys think, about ½ inch thick line that's been here a while. That's tangled on this reef. And we're sort of following it to see where it's going, because we do not want to get close to it. We don't want to conduct any scientific transects.
Oh yeah, it's a lingcod.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Okay.
We don't want to. The fish is beautiful. I love lingcod. They are amazing reef predators.
And delicious.
Yes, they are really good in a fish taco. But we're trying to figure out where this line's going, because we want to make sure that we are first and foremost not threatening any sort of entanglement of the ROVs in this gear. But it seems to be, we were following it, and it's taking wraps and turns on the rocky reef here off of Footprint Reef. But you can see from all the growth that's on the line, it's been here for a while. But we're trying to figure out where it ends and if it's attached to anything.
Because we don't want to be attached to it.
Exactly. I was going to say, in a way, we're doing a transect.
Yeah.
And we'll have a distance because we'll know. And we'll also know how long this line is at the end of it.
That's true.
But we zoomed in, so we're not.
Yeah, I know. It's not an official transect. And there's no lasers, but. I mean, there's
just to check out the lingcod.
Yeah. We're following a line, just not on a high back.
Yeah, so we're trying to figure out if this line's attached to any sort of floats or some sort of a trap and weights. We don't want to be messing with it, so we're trying to keep our distance and move along.
But know where it is.
And know where it is.
Did that sponge go around it?
It's going right through that sponge.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So it's heading off up that way.
Yeah.
To the north.
To the north, okay.
Yeah.
Well, continue to step east to follow it?
Well, it's
northeast?
Northeast, yeah. I guess. I mean, that's getting back up to the contour we were shooting for. I suppose. I mean, we're quite a ways away from the original line now. Like 100 meters or something, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. We can just follow this, and it'll take us up to that contour.
Okay.
the lost fishing gear transect.
Yeah. Okay, so northeast then. Let's do that. We'll just keep doing small steps.
Look at these rock features.
Bridge nav.
I know, they're amazing.
This almost looks like a big tree that just got dropped on the bottom of the sea floor. It's so interesting.
Yeah, it doesn't look like a rock to me.
No. Well, yeah, and it'd be interesting to see how long this line is. Like, where does it end?
We're kind of at tether limits here, Bob.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if 06. Yeah, I think we need more north-ish. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe even 30.
Yeah.
30.
This is so interesting. Wish I knew my geology better.
Me too.
There's some anemones growing off of this rock structure. There's some.
But it's definitely
sponges.
unique. It's not typical of what you see here. It's something that's sort of like fallen on it.
Yeah, this is different than what we were just looking at.
I know. Yeah, I agree.
And we have like different colored rubble underneath it. We kind of have that dark brown, the golden
Mav,
brown.
can we drop some more targets along this route so we can kind of just track it?
Absolutely. Zoom in now.
Yeah, this would be a cool place to zoom.
That looks like. Go back out.
Is
That looks like iron to me, doesn't it? So red.
Does it?
There's some red rock too around here.
Oh, that looks like a.
It's just something different that seems like it's overlaying the reef.
Where's Shipwreck Bob when you need him?
Right, he logged off. Log back on, Bob.
Bob, come back to the science trap. Is this human made? I feel like he would have a great eye for this because we were just commenting how it looks like it just fell to the seafloor, and if it was something man-made, that
is it shipped ribs? I mean, what we got going on here? They're kind of the same width.
Okay, can we zoom in?
Couple pieces anyway.
I don't know, because like that almost looks like asphalt. There's like little pebbles in it, like almost like cement. But yeah, but then we have those pieces.
Looks like rock.
Yeah, it looks like rock.
Looks like rock. Okay.
I don't
know, guys.
We're getting excited.
This is pretty
highly altered.
Yeah.
I was going for the narrative here, but you know, okay, it's just rock. And we have it's literally it's crickets on the science chat right now. So if anybody wants to chime in on what we're looking at here, it'd be helpful.
We're telling you.
On what kind of ship this was.
We're your experts now.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, this could be a significant finding of the 21st century. We don't know.
This could also be a significant media disaster.
Yeah.
PR nightmare.
That reminds me of the.
This isn't.
It reminds me of one cruise we had in the Caribbean back in 2013, and I swore that what I was looking at was a cannonball on the seafloor in a divot, and it was a coconut.
A coconut.
I mean,
I know.
Same but different. Same.
What's happening here? Can you zoom in on this?
I mean, so where was it?
I mean, it's 10:38 at night, you know, Pacific time, but come on.
That's like bacterial mat.
Yeah, it does look like bacteria.
That does look like a bacterial mat.
Bacteria that's specific to shipwrecks.
This is very strange.
Right.
This is a very
it's
strange
feeding
kind
into
of
the story.
here.
I'm gonna drop a target here
That
too,
is.
just for you guys.
Yep.
I think this is an area worth hanging around for a little longer here. That does look like a bacterial mat to me too.
This would be good. Good scoop or slurp.
Yep. You want to stop? Oh, we're actually already holding, so we kind of. That's of interest.
Do we have?
I think it'd be worth a slurp.
Huh.
I thought the scoop has been used.
Yeah, the scoop's been used.
No.
I think if you slurped it, it would just disintegrate.
Weird.
It would be hard to find what's what.
Yeah.
Sideways core?
Look at that rockfish. Okay, so that's got the little spots. I'm not going to identify it, but yes, it's, you know, part of the system here.
We've got some snails here too.
Oh, look at the whelk.
Upside down one.
You're thinking, looks. I don't know if I want to say the word.
Don't say it.
I know.
What are you going to say?
It's just looking a little seepy here. That's why Bob had zoomed in.
That could, And that, is also totally characteristic of this region. We have so many natural seeps. We have things going on here geologically with seeps. I mean, that's why you have oil platforms in the Santa Barbara Channel. It's just we have a lot of natural seeps here.
Definitely.
Very interesting.
Oh yeah. It's hard to tell if that's haze that's current haze or if there might be some seepage happening right there. Right in center now.
Well, unfortunately, it's on the other side of the line.
I know, so we're not going to find out.
And we're not going there.
Nope.
You can look, but don't touch.
Yeah. Definitely looks hazy, but it's hard to tell. It's foreground or...
Well, I mean, this area is considered one of the largest natural seeps in the world. We often, when we're heading out in the shearwater, our research vessel, we'll encounter oil slicks, and there's just a lot of natural seep activity here. And we also have gas seeps as well. It's it's part of the environment. It's been here since the first peoples. I mean, the tamales were made with some of the tar was used to help seal the area between the different redwood planks. So this is part of our story here in Channel Islands National Marine Sanctuary.
That's a cool little rock feature there.
Looks like a ship. Just kidding. Just kidding.
Oh man,
Bob, you're missing out. Bob Schwimmer.
There's most likely no way that most likely probably is not.
Oh man.
So.
A lot of work
You're saying
to do
there's
tomorrow.
a chance.
It
but
just looks
in the
so
middle,
unusual compared to the rest of the landscape.
In the middle of that crack looks very seepy.
Yeah, I agree.
And that was kind of cool to see.
Want to zoom in now?
Can't tell if it's just exposed rock.
See that blue on the inside?
Yeah, look at that on the inside like there.
Nice little cozy crevice, though.
It looked white when we passed over it. It's just so clean compared to the rest of the rock. It looks similar to what we've seen around seeps.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, and those mats were like white and blue, or blue and gray, or whatever colors those were. So that, I mean, that looks very similar to me.
I mean, if this is a seep, then this rock type is different. It's probably a carbonate, possibly from the seep, which would explain why it looks so different from the surrounding
No, I
bedrock.
agree with that. The color and how porous it is, that would make sense to me.
Yep.
Sorry to
That's very cool.
debunk the theory there.
All right. Well, no. I mean, it's well. I guess we're all agreeing it's unusual. It's just why is it unusual?
Yeah, and there's more bacterial mat.
And as simple as that.
Yeah.
That
all
thing.
Over here.
That orangey white thing in the middle.
I still see that line. Man, it's going off into the distance. It's like, come on.
Zoom in there.
Where are you going to end?
Going the distance.
It really is.
More bacteria mats. Cool.
Some orange bacterial mat.
Around a tunicate, maybe, or a sponge? Oh, it's one of those monk sponges, but I think it has mat on it. You can see the bristles around the outside, and then the sponge opening.
Oh, zoom in. I want to see the bristles. Oh, I see them. I see what you're talking about, Sam. So what are you calling this?
What was the